I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it and give you a vertical slice. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week on the chopping block. This week I've been playing Crysis 3 Remastered and concluding the trilogy that was requested of me a while back. Briefly recapping a few bullet points of previous videos, Crysis as a series has primarily served two purposes. One, as a game to be sold and played, and two, as a tech demo for prospective developers to look at and think, wow, I bet my game would sure look good in the CryEngine, and the games have put a fair degree of effort in showing off biomes for players to explore. The first one taking place in a tropical jungle environment, the second in an urban environment, and the last one being an urban jungle environment. Plot-wise, they do make an effort to have it make sense. 20 years after presumably defeating the Ceph alien menace, the protagonist, Prophet, who basically does host jumping with his consciousness taking over the body of Alcatraz from the last game, spoiler warning, has been on deep freeze and held by the evil mega corporation Cell. One of your fellow super soldiers from the first Crysis, Psycho, has teamed up with a group of freedom fighters to overthrow the massive company by taking out the mysterious alien device they turned into a supply of free energy for them to exploit and sell, which got them to their megalithic position of power and dominance. Prophet, due to narrative and sci-fi explanations, is able to see that the Ceph aren't as defeated as humanity would like, and in addition to being a guerrilla anti-corporate freedom fighter, also has to ensure aliens don't enact their plans and prevent the coming of the Alpha Ceph. Story-wise, it does the job. I mean, if you paid attention to half my summary thus far, you can probably correctly guess the plot twists that occur throughout the game's 6-hour playtime, which is kind of funny because since the game is so short, it delivers supposedly drastic story beats at a pace that makes it feel a little bit schizophrenic. It also doesn't really let any of the individual elements sit long enough for any of them to become meaningful, leaving me with a sentiment where I openly said things like, "Oh no, that character died. I think I was supposed to care. What was their name?" This failure in gravitas hits doubly because Crysis 3 also tries to orient itself as a story of more personal human struggle and sacrifice, but it completely falls flat when most of the role of the other characters is to serve to relay what your objective is, or to communicate how very bad everything has gone. There's also plenty of moments where things just plain stop making sense. For instance, when the Alka-Seltzer starts making a comeback, all the Cell agents decide it's still a good idea to shoot the super soldier instead of facilitating his success in defeating the alien menace that's gonna end us all. Considering how much CryEngine is on display to relay visual spectacle, it certainly has problems with showing over telling what needs to be said. It makes the writing come across as sloppy, which at least makes it consistent with some of the game's mechanical presentation. Of the three Crysis games, this one comes across as the least polished. From bullet hole textures being visible with their asset outlines on glass that was being shot, to vehicles experiencing physics anomalies that caused them to tip over when just sitting idle inside them, to AI that came across as woefully lacking. I will say, of the three games, Crysis 2 had the best vehicle sections because you never controlled them. Speaking of controls, the player's actions in Crysis 3 are at their most dissonant when it comes to moment-to-moment gameplay. The player's suit mechanics to turn invisible and tank damage make a return, and while it does allow the player to choose their style organically, it doesn't mesh with what's being relayed over your earpiece. In fact, when given the option, I just used invisibility to move constantly from checkpoint to checkpoint. One new combat mechanic was the bow and arrow, which had the potential to make stealth completely broken, as you could do it while fully cloaked, but I just plain forgot I had it most of the time. There's also more of an emphasis on hacking turrets and smart explosives, just further incentivizing my playstyle of not fighting unless I had to, which made some sections close to the end wildly infuriating. Switching from stealth and covert isolated strikes to needing to scrounge around for heavy ordnance to take out giant armored bastards was a rather infuriating gear switch, made all the stupider when the vehicles I could have piloted for the sake of heavier armaments were about as sturdy as Republican food aid plans. There were some more engaging moments where you get access to the energy and consciousness of the Ceph to gain invincibility with more ammo and damage, but while the first few moments make for a nice power fantasy, it then made me zone out as I could then stroll around without any consequences and shoot aliens at my leisure. Looking back, Crysis 3's most endearing moment was after the credits had rolled, and the main character Prophet has seemingly set himself up to retire in a tropical beachfront shack, which, when the camera pulls out, reveals itself to be the setting for Crysis 1 that is so frequently used for video benchmarking, as if to say, hey, here's something you're familiar with. In my conclusion, Crysis 3 is a tech demo first, a quality video game in a distant second, and that said, neither is very good. Of the three, it has the least polish, the least interesting story, and the least reason to exist. The only reason I beat it was because of its relative brevity. It's far from offensive, but if this was the last thing that Crytek put out to attract people to use their engine, I can kinda see why they've been struggling. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be back next week to run Crysis 3 Remastered through the minimum spec trials. Hey, Hey, thanks for sticking around all the way to the end. Remember that I give away Steam keys with my regular weekly uploads, and all you have to do to enter is leave a comment and have contact info on your YouTube profile. But as always, thanks for watching and keep your head on your shoulders.